Jessica Moore had worked at the Golden Fork restaurant for almost 3 years, serving tables with a warm smile despite the long hours and tired feet. She was proud of who she was, confident in her own skin, though the world around her didn't always make that easy. Customers sometimes made rude comments about her size, assuming incorrectly that her weight somehow reflected her worth or capability. Jessica had learned long ago to ignore their ignorance, focusing instead on doing her job well and living her life happily. The Golden Fork was known throughout the city as an upscale restaurant, frequently visited by wealthy businessmen and powerful figures, including Antonio Reyes, one of the most feared and respected mafia bosses in the entire region. Antonio dined there regularly, always occupying the same private corner table, always accompanied by a small group of quiet, watchful guards. Jessica had served Antonio's table many times before, though they rarely exchanged more than polite, professional conversation. Antonio was quiet, serious, and reserved, someone whose intense, calculating eyes seemed to notice everything happening around him, though he rarely revealed his private thoughts to anyone outside his closest circle. One particularly busy Friday evening, as Jessica finished her shift and prepared to walk home through the quiet city streets, she never imagined the night would take a dangerous, unexpected turn. The restaurant closed later than usual that evening, leaving Jessica walking alone through dimly lit streets toward the bus stop several blocks away. She had made this walk countless times before without incident, but tonight, something felt different, unsettling. As she turned down a quiet, poorly lit alley shortcut, a man suddenly stepped out from the shadows, blocking her path completely. His expression was aggressive, his intentions clearly dangerous. "Give me your purse," he demanded roughly, stepping closer threateningly. Jessica's heart pounded anxiously, though years of quiet confidence and inner strength refused to let fear completely control her reaction. "Back away," she warned firmly, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The man laughed coldly, clearly unimpressed by her confident warning. "Or what?" he sneered, lunging forward aggressively, attempting to grab her bag forcefully. What happened next surprised even Jessica herself. Years of quiet self-defense classes, taken initially simply for personal confidence and fitness, instinctively kicked into action. Jessica sidestepped his aggressive lunge swiftly, using his own forward momentum against him, sending him stumbling awkwardly off balance. Before he could recover, Jessica moved decisively, delivering a firm, well-placed strike that sent the attacker crashing heavily onto the pavement, clearly startled and disoriented by her unexpected strength and skill. "Stay down," Jessica warned firmly, stepping back cautiously, ready to defend herself further if necessary. The attacker groaned painfully, clearly unprepared for such a confident, capable response from someone he had mistakenly assumed would be an easy target. Struggling weakly to his feet, he quickly fled the scene, disappearing rapidly into the shadows, clearly humiliated by his failed attack. Jessica stood alone in the quiet alley, breathing heavily, adrenaline still coursing powerfully through her veins. She hadn't noticed the black car parked quietly nearby, nor the sharp, intense eyes watching the entire confrontation unfold from a discreet distance. Antonio Reyes had been leaving the restaurant himself that evening, his car conveniently positioned near the alley's entrance. He had witnessed the entire dramatic confrontation, genuine surprise and admiration clearly evident behind his usually controlled, serious expression. As Jessica gathered herself, preparing to continue her walk home, Antonio stepped calmly from his car, approaching her cautiously, clearly impressed by what he had just witnessed. "That was impressive," Antonio said calmly, his deep voice startling Jessica slightly. Jessica turned quickly, surprised to see her regular customer standing nearby, his expression thoughtful and genuinely curious. "Mr. Reyes," she said, still catching her breath. "I didn't realize you saw that." "I did," Antonio admitted, studying her carefully, admiration clear in his intense gaze. "You handled yourself remarkably well." Jessica smiled slightly, though exhaustion and lingering adrenaline remained evident in her expression. Years of self-defense classes finally paid off, I suppose. Antonio's serious expression softened slightly, genuine curiosity replacing his usual reserved demeanor. "Are you all right? Would you like a ride home, considering the circumstances?" Jessica hesitated momentarily, surprised by the unexpected offer from a man she barely knew personally, despite serving him regularly at the restaurant. "I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to trouble you." "It's no trouble at all," Antonio insisted calmly, gesturing toward his waiting car. "After witnessing what just happened, I'd feel much better ensuring you arrive home safely." Jessica considered his sincere offer carefully, gratitude slowly overcoming her initial hesitation. "All right," she finally agreed. "Thank you, Mr. Reyes." As they settled comfortably into his car, Antonio studied Jessica curiously, clearly intrigued by the confident, capable woman who had just impressively defended herself against a dangerous attacker. "You've certainly given me a lot to think about tonight," he admitted quietly. Jessica glanced curiously toward him. "What do you mean?" Antonio's expression grew thoughtful, admiration evident behind his controlled, serious demeanor. "I've underestimated you, Jessica. Completely and unfairly." Jessica studied Antonio curiously, surprised by his unexpected admission. "Underestimated me how?" she asked carefully. Antonio considered his words thoughtfully before responding. "I've seen you serving tables at the restaurant for years, always polite, always professional. But tonight, I witnessed something entirely different, genuine strength, courage, and skill I never expected." Jessica smiled slightly, though a hint of familiar frustration lingered beneath her calm exterior. "People often make assumptions about capability based on appearance," she admitted honestly. "I've grown used to being underestimated." Antonio's expression grew serious, genuine respect evident in his intense gaze. "That's unfortunate, and clearly incorrect, based on what I witnessed tonight." Jessica appreciated his sincere acknowledgement, warmth spreading gently through her chest despite the exhausting events of the evening. "Thank you, Mr. Reyes. That means more than you probably realize." As they arrived at Jessica's modest apartment building, Antonio insisted on escorting her safely to her door, his protective instincts clearly activated after witnessing tonight's dangerous confrontation. "Please, be cautious moving forward," he said seriously. "I'd like to ensure your continued safety." Jessica nodded gratefully, though curiosity lingered regarding Antonio's genuine concern. "I appreciate your concern, truly. But I don't want to inconvenience you further." "It's no inconvenience," Antonio reassured her firmly. "I'd like to arrange additional security for you, at least until we're certain tonight's attacker isn't connected to something more dangerous." Jessica hesitated, surprised by his serious, protective offer. "Do you think tonight's attack was more than a simple, random robbery attempt?" Antonio's expression grew thoughtful, clearly considering multiple possibilities carefully. "I'm not certain yet," he admitted honestly. "But given my line of work, it's wise to remain cautious until we understand clearly what happened." Reluctantly, Jessica agreed to accept temporary protection, appreciating Antonio's genuine concern despite her natural independence and self-reliance. Over the following days, Antonio arranged discreet security, ensuring Jessica's safety without drawing unnecessary attention toward her normal daily routine. As days passed, Antonio found himself unexpectedly visiting the restaurant more frequently, always requesting Jessica's table specifically, engaging her in genuine, thoughtful conversation beyond simple professional courtesy. "You seem different lately," Jessica observed one afternoon, noticing Antonio's increasingly relaxed, genuine demeanor during his visits. "More open." Antonio smiled slightly, genuine warmth evident in his usually controlled expression. "I suppose witnessing your incredible strength that night reminded me clearly of qualities I deeply admire: courage, confidence, and genuine authenticity." Jessica blushed slightly, surprised by his sincere compliment. "I appreciate that, truly. It's refreshing to be seen for who I really am, rather than judged by assumptions." Their growing friendship deepened naturally over subsequent weeks, filled with genuine warmth, mutual respect, and increasing comfort in each other's company. However, one evening, Antonio's protective informants delivered troubling news regarding the true motives behind Jessica's earlier attack. "Sir," one of Antonio's men reported cautiously, "we've identified Jessica's attacker. He's connected directly to the Delgado family, hired specifically to target her." Antonio's expression darkened instantly, protective anger clearly evident. Why would the Delgados target Jessica specifically? The informant hesitated slightly before responding. "It appears they've noticed your increasing visits and attention toward her, sir. They likely hoped intimidating or harming her would send a clear message, weakening your reputation and control." Antonio's jaw tightened, controlled fury evident beneath his calm exterior. "Jessica is now a deliberate target because of her connection to me." Immediately concerned, Antonio arranged an urgent meeting with Jessica, determined to address the serious, unexpected danger directly. "Jessica," he said seriously, once they were alone, "I need to explain something important, something that puts your safety at serious risk." Jessica listened carefully, anxiety rising quickly as Antonio explained clearly the dangerous connection between her attacker and the rival Delgado family. "They targeted me because of you?" she asked, stunned by the unexpected revelation. Antonio nodded gravely, genuine concern evident in his intense expression. "I'm deeply sorry, Jessica. My world has now placed you directly in danger, danger you never asked for or deserved." Jessica considered the troubling situation carefully, though her natural courage and resilience refused to allow fear to completely control her reaction. "What happens now?" she asked firmly. Antonio met her gaze directly, seriousness and protective determination clear in his controlled expression. "Now, Jessica, I intend to ensure your complete safety, regardless of the danger my world has unintentionally brought into your life." Jessica absorbed Antonio's serious words carefully, fear and determination mixing steadily within her chest. "What kind of protection are you talking about?" she asked directly. "Full security," Antonio explained firmly. "Guards stationed near your apartment, careful monitoring of your daily routine, and until we're certain the danger has passed, I'd prefer you stay somewhere more secure." Jessica hesitated, torn between accepting necessary protection and her strong desire to maintain her independent, self-reliant life. "I don't want to abandon my apartment or my job because of this danger," she said firmly. Antonio considered her concern carefully, respecting clearly her independent spirit despite his protective instincts. "I understand your hesitation, Jessica. But your safety must remain the priority right now." Reluctantly, Jessica agreed to increased security measures, though she insisted on continuing her normal work schedule at the Golden Fork, refusing to allow fear to control her life completely. Antonio respected her determined decision, arranging discreet protection that allowed her to maintain her independence while ensuring her safety remained closely monitored. Over the following days, tension steadily increased as Antonio's men carefully investigated the Delgado family's intentions and potential future actions against Jessica. One evening, as Jessica finished her shift at the restaurant, she noticed unfamiliar figures watching her carefully from across the street, their intentions clearly suspicious. Remaining calm despite her growing unease, Jessica quickly contacted Antonio's security team, who responded swiftly, ensuring her safe departure from the restaurant. Antonio arrived shortly afterward, his expression tense and serious. "They're testing our response," Antonio explained grimly, watching carefully as his men investigated the suspicious figures who had already retreated quickly upon discovery. "The Delgados are trying to determine exactly how much protection surrounds you." Jessica felt anxiety rising quickly, though her natural courage remained steady beneath her nervous exterior. "What happens if they decide to act more aggressively?" Antonio's jaw tightened, protective determination clear in his intense expression. "I won't allow that to happen, Jessica. I promise you complete protection, regardless of the risks involved." Despite the escalating danger, Jessica found herself growing increasingly close to Antonio, their shared circumstances strengthening the deep trust and admiration steadily developing between them. One evening, as they shared a quiet dinner together at Antonio's private estate, their conversation shifted naturally toward more personal topics. "Can I ask you something?" Jessica said curiously, studying Antonio thoughtfully. "Of course," Antonio replied warmly. "Why did you become so involved in protecting me?" Jessica asked directly. "Beyond simple concern about the danger connected to your world?" Antonio considered her question seriously, genuine vulnerability evident behind his usually controlled demeanor. "Honestly, Jessica, witnessing your incredible strength and confidence that first night reminded me of qualities I deeply value and admire. Since then, getting to know you personally has shown me even more clearly why you deserve protection and respect." Jessica felt warmth spreading gently through her chest, deeply moved by his sincere admission. "I appreciate that, Antonio. Truly." Their comfortable, meaningful conversation was suddenly interrupted by an urgent phone call, Antonio's expression shifting rapidly into serious concern as he listened carefully to troubling news. "What's wrong?" Jessica asked immediately, sensing his rising anxiety. Antonio lowered his phone slowly, his sharp eyes reflecting genuine alarm. "The Delgados have escalated their plans," he explained grimly. "They're planning a direct attack against you tonight." Jessica's breath caught sharply, fear rushing instantly through her entire body. Tonight. Why now? Antonio's expression darkened further, protective urgency clearly evident. They've realized negotiation and intimidation haven't worked. Now, they're attempting something far more dangerous and direct. Jessica felt fear tightening uncomfortably in her chest, though she forced herself to remain calm, drawing strength from her natural resilience and courage. What do we do? Antonio met her gaze directly, seriousness and protective determination clear in his controlled expression. We prepare immediately, Jessica. Tonight, we'll ensure the Delgados finally understand clearly, threatening you comes with serious, permanent consequences. Antonio moved quickly, coordinating carefully with his men to establish strong, discreet protection throughout his private estate, ensuring every possible entry point remained secure against the anticipated attack. Jessica watched anxiously, though her natural courage steadily helped calm her racing thoughts. Stay close to me, Antonio instructed firmly, his protective instincts fully activated. My men are prepared, but I want you within reach at all times tonight. Jessica nodded, trusting completely in Antonio's careful planning and protective determination. As evening fell, tension steadily increased throughout the estate, guards positioned strategically, watching carefully for any sign of the anticipated Delgado attack. Hours passed slowly, anxiety building steadily as they waited cautiously for the Delgados' next move. Finally, near midnight, the quiet tension shattered abruptly as gunfire erupted suddenly near the estate's outer perimeter, guards responding swiftly to repel the unexpected assault. Stay down, Antonio ordered firmly, positioning himself protectively between Jessica and the chaotic danger unfolding rapidly outside. Jessica's heart pounded anxiously, adrenaline coursing powerfully through her veins as she crouched carefully behind sturdy furniture, following Antonio's urgent instructions. Gunfire continued echoing tensely outside, followed by shouted commands and rapid, coordinated movement among Antonio's well-prepared guards. After several tense, terrifying minutes, the chaotic sounds of conflict gradually subsided, replaced by cautious, watchful silence. Antonio's phone buzzed urgently, and he answered quickly, listening carefully to updates from his men outside. The attack has been repelled, Antonio reported, relief evident in his controlled voice. Several Delgado men were captured, others retreated quickly once they realized our defenses were far stronger than anticipated. Jessica felt relief flooding through her entire body, though her hands trembled slightly from the frightening ordeal. Is everyone safe? Antonio nodded, though seriousness remained evident in his thoughtful expression. For now, yes. But this attack confirms clearly the Delgados' desperate determination to weaken my position by targeting you directly. Jessica considered his troubling words carefully, determination steadily replacing her initial fear. Then we need to address this threat completely, permanently. Antonio studied her carefully, admiration evident in his intense gaze. I agree completely. Tomorrow, I'll arrange a direct confrontation with the Delgado family, ensuring they understand clearly the serious consequences of continuing this dangerous conflict. The following day, Antonio organized a carefully planned meeting with the Delgado family, choosing a neutral, secure location to negotiate a resolution to their escalating conflict. Jessica insisted on attending, her courage and determination evident despite the obvious danger involved. Are you certain about this? Antonio asked carefully, concerned about Jessica's safety during the tense negotiation. I'm certain, Jessica replied firmly. I refuse to let fear control my life any longer. If I'm going to be involved in this danger, I want to face it directly, alongside you. Antonio nodded respectfully, admiring deeply her courageous determination. Then we'll face this together. At the negotiation, Salvador Delgado, head of the rival family, studied Jessica curiously, clearly surprised by her confident, composed presence despite the recent violent conflict. You're braver than I expected, he admitted honestly. I've learned never to underestimate my own strength, Jessica replied firmly, meeting his gaze directly without hesitation. Salvador studied her carefully, genuine respect evident behind his calculating expression. Perhaps I underestimated you as well, he admitted. Antonio stepped forward firmly, addressing Salvador directly. This conflict ends today, Salvador. Continued attacks against Jessica or anyone connected to me will result in severe, permanent consequences. Salvador considered Antonio's serious warning carefully, recognizing clearly the disadvantage of continued conflict against Antonio's well-prepared, determined organization. "I'm willing to negotiate peace," Salvador finally agreed, "provided reasonable terms benefit both our families." After careful negotiation, Antonio and Salvador reached a mutually beneficial agreement, effectively ending the dangerous conflict that had threatened Jessica's safety so directly. Relief flooded through Jessica as the tense negotiation concluded peacefully, without further violence or danger. As they left the meeting together, Antonio turned toward Jessica, admiration and affection clear in his intense gaze. "You handled that incredibly well, Jessica. Your courage and confidence continue to amaze me." Jessica smiled warmly, gratitude and affection evident in her own expression. "I couldn't have faced this danger without your protection and support, Antonio." Antonio reached gently for her hand, sincerity evident in his thoughtful expression. "Jessica, these past weeks have shown me clearly that true strength isn't measured by appearance or assumptions, but by genuine courage, resilience, and character, qualities you possess more powerfully than anyone I've ever known." In the days following the peaceful resolution with the Delgado family, life gradually began settling into a calmer, more comfortable rhythm for Jessica. The constant fear that had shadowed her every move slowly started to fade, replaced instead by a quiet sense of safety she hadn't felt in weeks. Still, the events of the past month had changed her in ways she was only beginning to understand. Jessica returned to her normal shifts at the Golden Fork, though everything felt slightly different now. Her co-workers noticed the change immediately, whispering curiously among themselves about her growing closeness with Antonio Reyes, a man whose reputation alone commanded quiet respect and careful distance throughout the city. "You've been different lately," her co-worker Maria observed one afternoon, watching Jessica carefully as she organized menus behind the counter. "Happier, somehow." Jessica smiled softly, considering how to explain the whirlwind of events that had reshaped her life so completely. "A lot has happened," she admitted honestly. "Good and difficult, all at once." Maria studied her curiously. "Is it true what people are saying? About you and Mr. Reyes?" Jessica hesitated, unsure exactly how to answer such a direct question about a relationship still finding its footing amid danger and uncertainty. "We've become close," she said carefully. "Closer than I ever expected." Maria smiled knowingly, though she wisely chose not to press further, sensing clearly the complicated, delicate nature of the situation. Meanwhile, Antonio focused carefully on solidifying the fragile peace established with the Delgado family, ensuring every detail of their agreement remained honored completely. He understood clearly that lasting peace required continued vigilance, patience, and careful diplomacy, qualities he approached with the same seriousness he applied to every important decision within his organization. Despite his demanding responsibilities, Antonio made a consistent effort to visit Jessica regularly, their growing bond deepening steadily through quiet dinners, thoughtful conversations, and shared moments of genuine laughter that gradually eased the lingering tension from recent danger. One peaceful evening, several weeks after the conflict had finally settled, Antonio invited Jessica to join him for a quiet dinner at a small, unassuming restaurant far removed from the elegant, sometimes intimidating atmosphere of his usual business meetings. "This place feels different from your usual choices," Jessica observed curiously, glancing around the cozy, welcoming restaurant. "I wanted somewhere simple," Antonio admitted, smiling gently. "Somewhere we could talk honestly, without any pressure or distraction." Jessica appreciated the thoughtful gesture, settling comfortably into their quiet corner table. As their conversation flowed naturally, filled with warmth and genuine curiosity about each other's lives, Jessica found herself reflecting deeply on how far their relationship had come since that frightening night in the alley. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally, studying Antonio thoughtfully. "Of course," he replied warmly. "Before all of this happened, before the attack, before everything became so complicated, did you ever imagine getting close to someone like me?" Jessica asked honestly, curiosity and vulnerability evident in her voice. Antonio considered her question seriously, sincerity clear in his thoughtful expression. "Honestly, no," he admitted. "My world rarely allows genuine, personal connections. Most people around me are either afraid of my reputation or interested only in what I can offer them." "And me?" Jessica asked softly. "You've never once seemed afraid of me," Antonio said, his voice gentle and sincere. "From the very beginning, you treated me simply as a person, not as a reputation or a source of power." That genuine authenticity is incredibly rare, Jessica, and it's part of why I've grown to care for you so deeply." Jessica felt warmth spreading through her chest, moved deeply by his heartfelt honesty. "I've never cared about your reputation," she admitted. "I've always been more interested in who you truly are beneath it." Their conversation continued warmly, deepening naturally into comfortable silence as they enjoyed the peaceful evening together. As dinner concluded, Antonio walked Jessica home personally, their pace unhurried, savoring the calm, comfortable connection steadily growing between them. "Thank you for tonight," Jessica said softly as they reached her apartment building. It felt good to simply relax, without worrying about danger or uncertainty. "I'm glad," Antonio replied warmly, though something thoughtful lingered behind his calm expression. "Is something on your mind?" Jessica asked gently, noticing his contemplative pause. Antonio hesitated slightly before responding honestly. "I've been thinking about the future, Jessica. About what I want moving forward, now that the immediate danger has passed." Jessica studied him curiously, anticipation building gently within her chest. "And what have you decided?" Antonio met her gaze directly, sincerity and warmth evident in his intense expression. "I want you fully in my life, Jessica, not simply as someone I'm protecting, but as someone I genuinely love and cherish." Jessica's breath caught softly, her heart swelling with genuine happiness at his heartfelt admission. "I feel exactly the same way, Antonio. These past weeks have shown me clearly how much you've come to mean to me." Antonio smiled warmly, gently reaching for her hand. "Then let's move forward together, Jessica, building something genuine and lasting, beyond fear or danger." Over the following weeks, their relationship deepened further, evolving naturally into a genuine, loving partnership built on mutual respect, admiration, and shared resilience. Jessica continued working confidently at the Golden Fork, refusing to abandon the independent life she had built for herself, while Antonio balanced his demanding responsibilities with consistent, meaningful time spent together. However, even amid their growing happiness, subtle signs suggested the peace with the Delgado family, though currently stable, remained fragile beneath the surface. Antonio's informants occasionally reported quiet, cautious movements from Salvador Delgado's organization, small signals suggesting underlying tension had not been entirely eliminated. One evening, as Jessica and Antonio enjoyed a peaceful walk through the city's quiet gardens, Antonio's phone buzzed with an update from his security team. His expression grew momentarily serious as he read the message carefully. "Everything all right?" Jessica asked, noticing his brief shift in demeanor. Antonio nodded, though thoughtfulness lingered in his expression. "Just routine updates," he assured her gently. "Nothing urgent, though maintaining peace requires constant, careful attention." Jessica nodded, understanding clearly the ongoing responsibilities Antonio carried, even during peaceful, happy moments together. "I trust you to handle whatever comes," she said sincerely. "You've proven that clearly time and again." Antonio smiled warmly, gratitude evident in his intense gaze. "And you've proven your own remarkable strength repeatedly as well, Jessica. Together, I believe we can handle whatever challenges the future might bring." As they continued their peaceful walk beneath the softly glowing evening lights, Jessica felt genuine gratitude and happiness settling comfortably within her heart, grateful for the unexpected. Extraordinary journey that had transformed her life so completely, from a confident, independent waitress into someone deeply valued, cherished, and loved by a man whose respect she had earned entirely through her own genuine strength and character. Yet, despite their peaceful happiness, both Jessica and Antonio understood clearly that true, lasting security within his dangerous world required continued vigilance, patience, and careful navigation of relationships both old and new, a reality they were prepared to face together, fully committed to building a genuine, lasting future despite whatever challenges still remained ahead. The following weeks passed with a fragile, cautious calm. Antonio continued monitoring the subtle signals from Salvador Delgado's organization carefully, determined to protect the peace they had worked so hard to establish. Jessica, meanwhile, focused on rebuilding a sense of normalcy, though the quiet strength she had discovered within herself during recent events never fully faded into the background again. One afternoon, while Jessica finished her shift at the Golden Fork, Antonio arrived unexpectedly, his expression unusually serious as he approached her table. "We need to talk," he said quietly, guiding her toward a private corner of the restaurant. "What's wrong?" Jessica asked immediately, sensing his rising tension. Antonio hesitated slightly before explaining. My informants confirmed something troubling today. Salvador Delgado's son, Marco, has been secretly planning to disrupt our peace agreement, believing his father's decision to negotiate was a sign of weakness. Jessica's stomach tightened with familiar anxiety. What does he intend to do? He's planning a direct move against you, Antonio admitted grimly, hoping to provoke conflict and force his father back into open war against my organization. Jessica absorbed this news carefully, though her earlier fear had gradually transformed into steady, determined resolve. Then we need to address this directly, before it escalates further. Antonio studied her carefully, admiration evident despite his obvious concern. I agree. But this time, Jessica, I want you fully prepared, not simply protected from a distance. Over the following days, Antonio arranged additional self-defense training for Jessica, ensuring her skills remained sharp and ready for any future confrontation. Despite the seriousness of the looming threat, Jessica approached her training with quiet determination, grateful for the opportunity to actively participate in her own protection rather than remaining a passive bystander. One evening, while walking home from an extended training session, Jessica noticed a familiar tension building steadily around her, an unsettling awareness that something dangerous approached. Trusting her instincts completely, she remained alert, carefully scanning her surroundings. Suddenly, a figure emerged from a nearby alley, blocking her path deliberately. It was Marco Delgado himself, his expression cold and calculating, clearly intent on provoking a dangerous confrontation. Jessica, Marco greeted coldly, stepping closer threateningly. I've heard so much about you. Jessica remained calm, her earlier fear replaced entirely by steady, confident resolve. Marco Delgado, she said evenly. I assume you're here to cause trouble. Marco's lips curled into a cold smile. Simply here to remind Antonio that peace agreements can be broken just as easily as they're made. Jessica studied him carefully, recognizing clearly the dangerous intent behind his calculated words. Antonio's men are nearby, she warned firmly. Whatever you're planning won't succeed. Marco chuckled coldly, clearly unconcerned by her warning. Perhaps. But causing enough chaos tonight might be exactly what's needed to reignite conflict between our families. Before Jessica could respond further, Marco lunged forward aggressively, attempting to grab her. This time, however, Jessica was fully prepared, her recent training activating instinctively as she smoothly countered his attack, using precise, practiced movements to subdue him effectively without unnecessary violence. Marco stumbled backward, clearly stunned by her skillful, confident defense. Before he could recover fully, Antonio's men arrived swiftly, quickly restraining him securely. You've made a serious mistake tonight, Marco, Antonio said calmly, arriving moments later, his expression cold and controlled as he assessed the tense situation. Marco struggled briefly against the firm grip of Antonio's guards, clearly frustrated by his failed attempt. This isn't finished, Antonio, he warned coldly. It is tonight, Antonio replied firmly, his tone leaving no room for further argument. Your father will be informed clearly of your reckless actions, actions that directly threaten the peace agreement he personally negotiated. Marco's confident bravado faltered slightly, clearly aware of the serious consequences he now faced from his own father's authority. Reluctantly, he was escorted away, his dangerous, impulsive plan completely thwarted by Jessica's newfound skill and confidence. Once the tense situation resolved completely, Antonio turned toward Jessica, admiration and relief evident in his intense gaze. You handled that incredibly well, he said softly, gently checking to ensure she remained unharmed. Jessica smiled confidently, adrenaline slowly fading into calm satisfaction. The training helped tremendously, she admitted. I finally feel fully capable of protecting myself, rather than simply relying on others. Antonio's expression softened, genuine pride evident in his warm smile. You've always been capable, Jessica. Tonight simply confirmed it clearly, once again. The following day, Salvador Delgado personally reached out to Antonio, expressing sincere regret regarding his son's reckless actions and reaffirming his genuine commitment to maintaining peace between their families. With Marco's dangerous plan fully exposed and firmly addressed, tensions between the two powerful organizations finally settled into a stable, lasting resolution. With the threat completely resolved, Jessica and Antonio's relationship continued flourishing, deepening steadily into genuine, lasting love built upon mutual respect, admiration, and shared resilience. Jessica maintained her cherished independence, continuing her work at the Golden Fork, though she now approached each day with renewed confidence and strength, fully aware of her own remarkable capabilities. One peaceful evening, several months after the danger had finally, completely subsided, Antonio invited Jessica to a quiet, beautiful garden overlooking the city, the same peaceful location where their relationship had first begun deepening meaningfully. "You seem thoughtful tonight," Jessica observed, noticing Antonio's unusually reflective expression. "I've been considering our journey together," Antonio admitted honestly. "How something that began through unexpected danger has transformed into something genuinely beautiful and meaningful." Jessica smiled warmly, memories flooding back vividly. "It's remarkable, isn't it? How strength and resilience brought us together, rather than simply circumstance alone." Antonio nodded, reaching gently into his pocket, revealing a small, elegant ring, his usual calm confidence replaced momentarily by genuine, heartfelt vulnerability. "Jessica, from the very first night I witnessed your incredible strength, I knew clearly you were someone truly extraordinary. Your courage, resilience, and genuine authenticity have shown me exactly what real strength and character mean. I want to spend the rest of my life supporting you, cherishing you, and building a genuine, loving future together. Will you marry me?" Tears of overwhelming joy filled Jessica's eyes as she nodded eagerly, her heart overflowing with genuine happiness and love. "Yes," she whispered softly. "Absolutely, completely, yes." Antonio smiled warmly, gently sliding the beautiful ring onto her finger before pulling her into a loving, joyful embrace, both of them finally free to embrace genuine happiness after months of danger, uncertainty, and remarkable personal growth. As their wedding celebration unfolded joyfully several months later, surrounded by cherished friends, family, and colleagues who had watched their extraordinary journey unfold, Jessica reflected deeply on how dramatically her life had transformed since that frightening night in the alley. "Any regrets?" Antonio asked softly, echoing gently the meaningful question that had become cherished throughout their relationship. Jessica smiled warmly, leaning comfortably against her husband, deeply grateful for the extraordinary journey that had transformed her life so completely. "Not a single one," she whispered, gratitude and love clear in her voice. "That night taught me my own strength, and it led me exactly here to you." Antonio pulled her closer, warmth and love evident in his gentle, sincere smile. "Then let's ensure every moment moving forward reflects that same strength, courage, and unconditional love." As their celebration continued joyfully beneath the peaceful evening sky, Jessica understood clearly that sometimes, the most frightening, unexpected moments in life reveal our truest strength, moments capable of transforming fear into confidence, danger into genuine connection, and ultimately, leading us toward the most meaningful, beautiful futures we could ever imagine.